If someone had told Laura Whitmore that Sam, the love of her life, the boy she'd known since childhood, the man who danced under the magnolia trees and sworn he'd love her forever, would betray her, she would have laughed until her sides hurt. If they'd whispered that Sophia, the broken woman she'd saved from the streets, would be the one to help destroy her, Laura would have called them a liar to their face. But life didn't send memos. It didn't write warning letters or give gentle nudges. It just happened, swift and brutal as a winter storm. And now, as Laura's unconscious body floated down the dark waters of the Chattahoochee River, wrapped in a canvas bag, dumped like garbage by the two people she trusted most in the world, life was teaching her its cruelest lesson yet. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. To understand how a girl who had everything, wealth, love, security, ended up fighting for her life in a cold river, we need to go back. Back to where it all began. Back to a 12-year-old girl with tear-stained cheeks and a heart broken into a million pieces. Back to the very beginning. 15 years earlier, the wrought iron gates of the Whitmore estate groaned open like the mouth of some magnificent beast, and 12-year-old Laura pressed her face against the car window, watching the sprawling grounds unfold before her. Manicured lawns stretched for what seemed like miles, dotted with ancient oak trees draped in Spanish moss. Gardens exploded with color, roses, hydrangeas, azaleas, all tended with meticulous care. In the distance, the mansion rose like something from a dream, all white columns and grand balconies, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. "We're here, Miss Laura," said Mr. Henderson, her grandfather's fever, his voice gentle. Laura said nothing. She'd said nothing for the past 3 days, not since the accident, not since the police officer had knocked on her classroom door, not since the principal had taken her to the hospital, not since she'd seen the white sheets covering the bodies of her parents. The car rolled to a stop in the circular driveway where a fountain featuring 3 marble dolphins sent arcs of water into the air. The front door of the mansion opened, and a tall, distinguished black man with silver hair and kind eyes descended the steps. He wore an expensive suit despite the heat, and his face was etched with worry and grief in equal measure. Cornelius Whitmore, her grandfather, a man she'd only seen a handful of times in her life, always at awkward family gatherings where her mother, his daughter, had seemed uncomfortable and eager to leave. "Baby girl," he said softly as Mr. Henderson opened her door. "Welcome home." Home. The word felt foreign. Home was the small house in Savannah with the creaky porch swing. Home was her mother's laughter and her father's terrible singing in the shower. Home was gone, reduced to flowers and condolences, in a funeral she'd sat through like a stone statue. Cornelius knelt down, something that must have hurt his knees, and opened his arms. Laura walked into them mechanically, feeling his embrace but not really feeling anything at all. "I've got you now," he whispered into her hair. "I've got you, and I'm never letting go." Over the next few weeks, Cornelius tried everything. He bought her toys, dolls and games, and books. Though Laura had never been much interested in dolls, he took her to the best restaurants in Atlanta, where she pushed expensive food around her plate. He hired the finest tutors, arranged for therapy sessions, even brought in a puppy, a golden retriever named Sunshine, hoping to coax a smile from her lips. Nothing worked. Laura moved through the mansion like a ghost, quiet and hollow. She attended the private school Cornelius enrolled her in, sat through classes without speaking, and came home to her room, a palatial space 3 times the size of her old bedroom, where she'd sit by the window and stare at nothing. "Mr. Whitmore, sir," said Ms. Patricia, the head housekeeper, a warm woman who'd worked for the family for 30 years. "That child is fading away. She barely eats, barely sleeps. I hear her crying at night." Cornelius sat in his study, his head in his hands. "I don't know what else to do, Patricia. I've given her everything money can buy." "Maybe that's the problem," Patricia said gently. "Maybe she doesn't need things. Maybe she just needs to feel something again. Anything, The breakthrough came on a Wednesday afternoon in late September. Laura sat in her window seat watching the grounds below with empty eyes. The staff moved about their duties, gardeners tending the flowers, maintenance workers checking the fountain, housekeepers hanging laundry in the back courtyard. Then she saw him. A boy, maybe her age, dancing between the rose bushes with a watering can in his hand. He wasn't just watering the flowers, he was performing for them and spinning and dipping, making exaggerated faces, talking to the roses like they were his audience. "And now, ladies and gentlemen," she heard him say, his voice drifting up to her window, "the amazing Samuel Washington will perform the impossible, the triple spin water delivery." He spun 3 times, water sloshing from the can, and finished with a deep bow to a particularly large rose bush. Then he laughed, a sound so pure and unself-conscious that something shifted in Laura's chest. For the first time in months, the corners of her mouth twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was something. Every day after that, Laura rushed to her window when she got home from school, watching for the dancing boy in the garden. He came like clockwork at 4 o'clock, always with his watering can, always with his goofy routine. "Who is that?" Laura finally asked Miss Patricia, pointing out the window. Patricia's face lit up. It was the first question Laura had asked about anything since arriving. "That's Samuel, honey." "Sam. His daddy Marcus is our head gardener. Been with the family for 20 years. That boy practically grew up on these grounds." "He's funny," Laura said quietly. "Oh, he's a character, that one," Patricia chuckled. "Always has been. Makes everyone laugh with his antics. Your grandfather says Marcus's boy has sunshine in his soul." Sunshine, like the puppy that Laura still hadn't really bonded with. But this sunshine, this human sunshine dancing in the garden, actually made her feel something. "Can I?" Laura hesitated. "Can I go outside?" Patricia's smile could have lit up the whole mansion. "Baby, you can go anywhere you want. This is your home." The next afternoon, Laura gathered her courage and walked down the grand staircase, through the marble foyer, and out the French doors that led to the garden. Her heart pounded as she approached the rose garden, where Sam was doing his usual routine. He was in the middle of serenading a gardenia bush, singing some made-up song about photosynthesis, when he noticed her standing there. "Oh," he stopped mid-note, looking surprised. "Hey there. You're Mr. Whitmore's granddaughter, right?" "Laura," she nodded, suddenly shy. "I'm Sam. Samuel Washington at your service." He gave an elaborate bow, the same kind he'd given the roses. When he straightened up, his smile was wide and genuine. "You want to help me water the flowers? They love company." I don't know how," Laura admitted. "It's easy. You just pour water on them and tell them they're pretty. Plants respond to positive affirmation. I read that in a science book." He grabbed a second watering can from the ground and held it out to her. "Here, you take the azaleas. But watch out for Mrs. Henderson. That's what I call the big one in the corner. She's particular about how much water she gets." Laura took the can, and for the first time in months, something like a smile touched her face. "You named the plants?" "Of course. You can't be friends with someone if you don't know their name." He gestured around the garden. "That's Mrs. Henderson. This here is Big Pete. Those roses over there are the Jackson 5. There's 5 of them, see? And the tulips are collectively known as the drama queens because they're always drooping about something." And then Laura laughed. It burst out of her unexpectedly, rusty from disuse, but real, honest, alive. Sam's face lit up like she'd given him the greatest gift. "There it is. I was wondering when I'd see you smile. I see you watching from your window sometimes." Laura felt her cheeks warm. "You see me?" "Sure do. I figure you must be lonely up there in that big old mansion." "I know I would be." He started walking toward the azaleas, motioning for her to follow. "So here's the deal. You can come out here anytime you want. The garden's big enough for 2, and the plants could use another friend. What do you say?" "Okay," Laura said softly, then stronger. "Yes." I'd like that. Cool. Oh, and fair warning, I dance while I work. Can't help it. My mama says I came out of the womb doing the moonwalk. Laura actually giggled. That's not possible. You calling my mama a liar? Sam gasped in mock offense, then grinned and, okay, maybe I exaggerated a little, but I definitely did the moonwalk at my first birthday party. There's video evidence. As they watered the plants together, Sam keeping up a steady stream of jokes and observations, Laura felt something she hadn't felt since her parents died. Light, like a little spark of warmth in the cold darkness that had swallowed her whole. From the study window, Cornelius watched his granddaughter laugh with the gardener's son, and for the first time in weeks, he felt hope. From that day forward, Laura and Sam became inseparable. They met in the garden every afternoon, their friendship blooming like the flowers they tended. Sam taught Laura the names of every plant, making up ridiculous backstories for each one. Laura shared her books with Sam, reading aloud under the shade of the ancient magnolia tree while he pruned and weeded. Listen to this, Laura said one day, looking up from a thick novel. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. Sam paused his weeding to think about that. That's deep. Who said it? Helen Keller. She was blind and deaf, right? And she still became, super famous and smart? Laura nodded. She couldn't see or hear, but she learned to communicate anyway. She wrote books and gave speeches and changed the world. See, that's what I'm talking about. Sam sat back on his heels, his face animated. That's what I want to do. Not the blind and deaf part, that would be terrible, but the changing the world part. I want to do something that matters, not just water flowers forever. What do you want to do? Sam grinned. I don't know yet, but it'll be something big, something that makes people go, wow, that's Sam Washington. He really did something. Laura smiled. She loved Sam's confidence, his certainty that he was destined for greatness. It was contagious, making her feel like maybe she could be great too, even though right now she was just a sad girl who'd lost her parents. I think you'll do it, she said softly, whatever it is. And you'll be right there with me, Sam declared. We're a team, Laura. Best friends forever, right? Right. They shook on it, their hands dirty from the garden soil, sealing a promise they both believed would last forever. At school, things were harder. Laura had always been a bigger girl, chubby, as her mother had gently called it, but grief had made her turn to food for comfort. The weight came on quickly, and with it came the cruelty of children who saw someone different and attacked. Look, it's Fatty Laura, sneered Vanessa Mitchell, the most popular girl in 7th grade, as Laura walked past in the cafeteria. Gonna eat the whole lunch line by yourself? The table erupted in laughter. Laura kept her head down, clutching her tray, feeling tears prick her eyes. Hey, Vanessa, came a familiar voice. Sam slid into the seat next to Laura, his smile friendly, but his eyes hard. I heard you failed the science test again. That's what, the 3rd time? Maybe if you spent less time worrying about other people and more time studying, you would actually pass something besides judgment. Vanessa's face went red. Mind your business, Sam. Laura is my business. She's my best friend, and she's worth 10 of you on your best day. He turned to Laura. Come on, let's sit outside. The weather's too nice to waste it in here with people who have nothing better to do than be mean. As they walked away, Laura whispered, You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. That's what friends do. They stand up for each other. Sam bumped her shoulder with his. Besides, you're not fat. You're beautiful. You're Laura. And that's all that matters. Laura felt warmth spread through her chest. Sam always knew what to say to make her feel better. Cornelius watched the friendship grow with mixed feelings. On one hand, his granddaughter was healing. She smiled again, laughed again, ate meals, and engaged with life. The hollow look had left her eyes, replaced by something brighter. On the other hand, she was becoming deeply attached to a staff member's son. It's inappropriate, said Richard Montclair, one of Cornelius's oldest friends, during a business dinner. The help's child? Really, Cornelius? The girl's going to inherit your entire fortune someday. She needs to learn boundaries. But when Cornelius saw Laura's face light up at the sight of Sam, when he heard her genuine laughter echoing through the halls, he couldn't bring himself to separate them. "She's happy," he told Richard, "for the first time since losing her parents. My granddaughter is happy. I won't take that away from her." "You'll regret this," Richard warned. "Mark my words." Cornelius hoped his friend was wrong. Years passed like the seasons changing in the garden, inevitable, beautiful, and sometimes harsh. Laura and Sam grew from children into teenagers, their friendship deepening even as the world around them grew more complicated. At 15, Laura stood in front of her mirror, tears streaming down her face. The dress her grandfather had bought for the school dance didn't fit right. None of her clothes fit right. She tried every diet, every exercise program, but the weight wouldn't budge. Her body seemed determined to keep her round and soft while every other girl in school was thin and delicate. A soft knock came at her door. "Laura, it's me." She quickly wiped her eyes. "Come in." Sam entered, dressed in a simple button-down shirt and slacks, looking effortlessly handsome. At 16, he'd shot up in height, filled out his frame with lean muscle from working in the gardens. He was beautiful, and she was not. "Whoa, you look amazing," Sam said, his eyes widening. "That color is perfect on you." "Don't lie to me," Laura said miserably. "I look like a stuffed sausage. I'm not going to the dance." Sam crossed the room and took her hands. "Laura Whitmore, look at me." When she didn't, he gently tilted her chin up. "You are beautiful. You hear me? Beautiful. Not despite your size, just a beautiful period. You're smart and kind and funny. You have the prettiest smile I've ever seen, and anyone who can't see that is blind. The girls at school are jealous because you're brilliant and you're going to run a business empire someday while they're stuck trying to marry rich." Sam squeezed her hands. "You're going to that dance and you're going to have fun, and I'm going to be right there with you, and we're going to show everyone how it's done." Laura sniffled. "You're just saying that because you're my friend." "I'm saying it because it's true. Now come on, our ride's waiting." At the dance, Laura felt self-conscious as they walked in. She could feel eyes on her, hear whispers. But Sam never left her side. He danced with her, joked with her, made her laugh so hard she forgot to be self-conscious. "See," he said as they slow danced to the last song, "you're having fun." "Yeah," Laura admitted, smiling up at him. "I am." For just a moment as they swayed together, Laura felt something shift in her chest, something beyond friendship, something warm and sweet and terrifying. But she pushed it down. Sam was her best friend. She couldn't ruin that with feelings he'd never return. Marcus Washington watched his son with the Whitmore girl and felt worried. "Boy, you're getting too close to her," he told Sam one evening as they worked together in the greenhouse. "Laura's my best friend, Dad." "I know that, but she's also going to be one of the richest women in Georgia someday, and you're the gardener's son." "That's just facts." Marcus pruned a branch with practiced efficiency. "People talk, Sam. They say you are taking advantage, trying to get close to the family fortune." Sam's jaw tightened. "People can say whatever they want. Laura needed a friend when she came here, and I was there. That's it. I don't care about her money." "I believe you," Marcus said gently, "but the world won't. Just be careful, son. That girl's got a tender heart, and she relies on you something fierce. Don't hurt her." "I would never hurt Laura," Sam said firmly. "Never." Marcus nodded slowly. "I hope that's true." "I really do." At 17, Laura's relationship with her grandfather had deepened into something precious. Cornelius had become both parent and mentor to her, teaching her about the family business, a vast empire that included real estate, investments, and a chain of upscale boutique hotels across the South. One day, all of this will be yours, Cornelius told her as they toured the corporate offices downtown. But wealth without wisdom is dangerous, baby girl. So I'm going to teach you everything I know. Laura soaked it up like a sponge, her sharp mind grasping complex business concepts quickly. Cornelius was impressed and proud, but he worried about her attachment to Sam. Laura, sweetheart, we need to talk, he said one evening in his study. She looked up from the financial reports she'd been reviewing. What's wrong, Grandpa? Cornelius leaned back in his chair, choosing his words carefully. I've been hearing some concerning things about young Samuel. Laura's expression immediately became defensive. What things? Nothing concrete, just rumors. People saying he's been seen with some questionable company, making decisions that seem out of character for the boy I thought I knew. That's ridiculous, Laura said firmly. Sam would never. I'm not saying he's a bad person, Cornelius interrupted gently. I'm saying he's no longer the innocent 12-year-old dancing in the garden. People change, Laura, especially as they get older and see what they don't have. You think he's using me, Laura said flatly. I think you need to be careful. I think you trust too easily, love too deeply. Those are beautiful qualities, but they can also be dangerous. He leaned forward. I've seen this before. People who befriend the wealthy not out of genuine care, but out of desire for what that friendship can bring them. Laura stood abruptly. Sam isn't like that. He's been my friend since before he knew anything about business or money. When I was just a sad little girl who'd lost her parents, he was there. He's still here, not because of what I have, but because of who I am. I hope you're right, Cornelius said quietly. I truly do. But please, just keep your eyes open. Don't be so blinded by loyalty that you miss the warning signs. Laura left the study angry, but her grandfather's words planted seeds of doubt that she tried hard to ignore. As they approached 18, Sam became more ambitious. He'd been accepted to a local college on a partial scholarship, planning to study business. Laura was proud of him, but she noticed changes, subtle at first, then more pronounced. He talked more about money, about success, about wanting to prove himself to people who looked down on him. He spent more time away from the estate, networking at events Laura's grandfather got him invited to. He was charming, charismatic, and people responded to him. You're going to be so successful, Laura told him one day as they sat under the magnolia tree, their spot since childhood. Sam flashed that brilliant smile. We're going to be successful. You and me, Laura, we're going to show this whole city what we're made of. Together, Laura said softly. Forever, Sam confirmed. And when he looked at her like that, Laura could almost forget her grandfather's warnings, almost believed that their childhood promise would hold strong against everything the world threw at them. Almost. At 78, Cornelius Whitmore was a force of nature, until he wasn't. It started with small things, forgetting appointments, repeating himself in conversation, needing more rest. Then came the diagnosis, congestive heart failure, complicated by diabetes he'd managed poorly for years. I don't have much time left, he told Laura bluntly, in the way that only the dying can be honest. A year, maybe 2 if I'm lucky. So we need to prepare. Laura, now 21 and fresh from business school, felt the world tilt. Grandpa, don't talk like that. We'll get the best doctors. I have the best doctors, and they've all told me the same thing. He took her hand. Listen carefully, baby girl. I'm making you CEO of Whitmore Enterprises, effective immediately. I'll remain chairman until I can't, but the day-to-day operations will be yours. I'm not ready, Laura whispered. You are more ready than you think. You're smart, you're compassionate, you understand people. You just need to trust yourself. He squeezed her hand. But there are safeguards I'm putting in place. Protections. Over the next few weeks, Cornelius restructured everything. Laura became CEO with full operational control. But the bulk of the estate, the real assets, the trust fund, worth hundreds of millions, would only become fully accessible to her 5 years after her marriage, assuming she married with the approval of a 3-person board of trustees. Why such complicated rules? Laura asked, frustrated. Because I'm protecting you from making decisions when emotions are high, Cornelius explained. Love, or what we think is love, can make us foolish. I want you to have time to be sure of your choices before you have access to everything. You still don't trust Sam, Laura said quietly. Cornelius sighed. I don't trust anyone completely when it comes to protecting you. Not even myself, which is why there are trustees. Samuel, he may be exactly what you think he is, or he may be playing a long game. Time will tell. I love him, Grandpa, Laura admitted for the first time out loud. I think I've loved him since we were kids. I know, sweetheart. I see it on your face every time he walks into a room. Cornelius looked at her with infinite sadness and love. Just promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you'll watch for red flags. And promise me that if you do marry him, you'll wait, let the relationship mature. Let time reveal truth. Laura promised, not knowing how thoroughly she would break that promise or how much it would cost her. Marcus Washington noticed the changes in his son too, and they worried him. Sam had always been ambitious, but now there was an edge to it, a hunger that seemed less about achievement and more about acquisition. Boy, you spending a lot of time with Miss Laura lately, Marcus commented as Sam got dressed for another dinner at the main house. She's going through a hard time with her grandfather being sick. She needs support, Sam replied, adjusting his tie, a designer one that Laura had given him for his birthday. Support or something else? Marcus asked carefully. Sam's face hardened. What's that supposed to mean? It means I see how you look at her now. And it's different from how you looked at her when you were kids. Back then it was pure friendship. Now, Marcus shook his head. Now I see calculation in your eyes. You think I'm using her? Sam said coldly. I think you're a young man who's grown up watching wealthy people have everything while you and your daddy tend their gardens. I think you're smart enough to see an opportunity when it's in front of you. And I think you're not being honest with yourself about your motivations. Laura's my best friend, Sam insisted. I care about her. I believe you do, Marcus said. But is it her you want or what she represents? Freedom from being the help, status, wealth. Think hard on that, son. Because if you pursue this girl for the wrong reasons, you'll destroy her. And yourself. Sam stormed out without answering, but Marcus's words echoed in his mind more than he wanted to admit. Cornelius died on a rainy Tuesday in November, peacefully in his sleep with Laura holding his hand. She was 22 years old and now the sole heir to a fortune worth nearly $500 million, though most of it was locked in trusts and corporate structures designed to protect it. The funeral was massive. Atlanta's elite turned out to pay respects to one of the city's great philanthropists and businessmen. Laura stood at the front of the church, numb with grief, feeling like she'd lost her parents all over again. Sam was there, of course. He'd taken a week off from his new job at a marketing firm to be by her side. He held her when she cried, organized details when she couldn't think straight, fielded phone calls from people offering condolences. I don't know what I'd do without you, Laura whispered to him after the funeral, as they sat in the mansion that felt too big and too empty. You'll never have to find out, Sam promised. I'm here, Laura. Always. In her grief, Laura clung to him. He was the constant in her life, the person who'd been there through everything. He was safety, comfort, love, or so she believed. 2 months later, as Laura struggled to manage both her grief and the massive responsibility of running Whitmore Enterprises, Sam took her to their spot under the magnolia tree. I have something to say, he began, looking nervous in a way she'd rarely seen him. What is it? Sam took her hands. We've known each other for 10 years now. You've been my best friend, my confidant, my everything. And somewhere along the way, friendship became something more. At least for me. Laura's heart started pounding. Sam, let me finish, he said, smiling. I love you, Laura. I'm in love with you. I have been for years. And I know this might be too soon after your grandfather. And I know the world might not understand, but I can't keep it in anymore. You're the most incredible woman I've ever known, and I want to spend my life with you. If you'll have me." Tears streamed down Laura's face. Tears of joy, of relief, of love finally acknowledged. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, I love you too. I've loved you forever." They kissed under the magnolia tree where their friendship had bloomed, and Laura felt like everything was finally falling into place. Her parents were gone, her grandfather was gone, but she had Sam. She had love. She had a future. The proposal came 3 weeks later, a simple, perfect moment with a ring that was modest but thoughtful. Laura said yes immediately, already planning their future in her mind. Marriage, children, growing old together while building the Whitmore legacy into something even greater. Her grandfather's lawyer, Bernard Sterling, was less enthusiastic when she told him. "Laura, I have to advise you, your grandfather put certain provisions in place specifically to prevent hasty decisions after his death. Marrying this quickly—" "I'm not being hasty," Laura interrupted. "I've known Sam my whole life. This isn't some whirlwind romance. Nevertheless, the trust stipulations, I don't care about the trust. I have the company, I have the estate. That's enough. Sam and I will build our own fortune if we have to. This is about love, not money." Bernard looked at her with pity. "I hope that's true for both of you, my dear." "I sincerely hope it is." They were married 3 months later in an intimate ceremony in the mansion's garden, under the magnolia tree where everything had begun. Laura wore a custom dress that made her feel beautiful despite her size, and Sam looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. "I promise to love you, cherish you, and stand by you through everything," Sam said in his vows, his voice thick with emotion. "You're my best friend, my soulmate, my forever. Nothing will ever come between us." Laura believed every word. The staff had mixed reactions. Ms. Patricia cried happy tears, thrilled to see Laura so joyful. But Marcus Washington stood at the back of the ceremony with a heavy heart, hoping his son was being genuine and fearing he wasn't. After the wedding, Laura threw herself into making their life perfect. She gave Sam a position at Whitmore Enterprises as a consultant, trusting his business acumen. She made sure he had everything he wanted: cars, clothes, anything he desired. She wanted him to feel like an equal partner, not just the gardener's son who married well. And for a few months, everything seemed perfect. They laughed together, made love, planned their future. Laura started trying to get pregnant, eager to build the family she'd always wanted. But beneath the surface, things were shifting in ways Laura couldn't see. Sam was spending more time at the office, more time networking, more time building his own power base within the company. He was charming to everyone, indispensable, making himself a key figure in Whitmore Enterprises. And he was becoming someone Laura didn't quite recognize. This is not the end. The show's only just getting hotter. Type episode 2 in the comments if you want us to continue. And if you have enjoyed watching this video, please show this channel some love by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so by now. Thank you, besties, for always sticking around. See you in the next one.